Hello everybody, my name is Squaggy and put those fists up. Let's talk about arms. I was testing this deck the other day and just wanted to give some thoughts on how we can build it further. Keep in mind the testing isn't very comprehensive and I don't even know if the build here is even right, but I wanted to give some thoughts and discuss some of the choices with how the deck is built currently and how I think I would build it in the future. I'm filming this alone, so Claude B isn't with me right now, so there isn't really a fight to show you, but I will show you some of the basic attack patterns of the deck. And if you want to watch some fights with the deck, I've linked a Sunny Kisu's fight in the description below, which can give you a good idea as to the basic attack pattern of the deck. For me though, I want to discuss the choices I made in deck building and where I go from here and what are the boards that we are trying to put out. Silhouette, or Armed Arms, is a deck that uses, well, arms to attack, which then attach to your Vanguard to give it power and all sorts of little quirky effects. First up is the Silhouette Man as the Vanguard, because you need it to ride into Garda's Silhouette. When Garda's Silhouette is rolled, you can search your deck for one Machinery's Factory, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Machinery's Factory is kind of your engine of the deck, which lets you rest itself to look at the top 7 cards of your deck, put an Armed Arms in the drop zone, or if you already have one in the drop zone of the same name, you can put it in your hand, but if you do, the Machinery's Factories goes into the soul. You'll want to manage that because Machinery's Factories in the order zone can be moved into the soul so that you can call 2 Armed Arms from your drop zone to the open rearguard circles. So this is going to be a way to recur your arms in matchups where you have intercepted with them or they are retired. Next up is Caesar Silhouette, who when rolled upon by a Gigant Arm Silhouette, though it is errata to just being rolled upon by a silhouette, you can choose 2 differently named Armed Arms from your drop zone and call them to the open rearguard circle. So you can kind of see that you want to put the Armed Arms into your drop zone via the effect of Machinery's Factory. And the silhouette that you are riding into is Grand Arms Silhouette. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 already, you can Soul Blast one Machinery's Factory specifically, and then this unit is going to give all your Armed Arms 5,000 extra power. Then at the beginning of your attack step, you Soul Blast one, and you can choose up to 2 of your rear guards with Armed Arms in their different card names and attach them to the unit. The way it works is basically you add the power of the Armed Arms to the Vanguard itself, and if you check like a crit and you put the effect onto your arm, then it will give the power to your Vanguard as well. If you check a front, then you will gain 30,000 power to your Vanguard swing, which is kind of the whole gimmick of the arms thing, or at least it kind of used to be. And at the end of the battle that this unit attacked, you can move one of the units attached to this unit, basically one of your arms, and move it to rearguard circle as stand, basically getting a 4th attack in. So it's not possible to evaluate Grand Arms without looking at his arms. You're going to hear the word arms a lot. First up, we have strong right. Basically, if your Vanguard has both strong left and strong right attached, it'll gain +1 critical. This basically always happens, so you're always a double critical Vanguard. When this unit attacks, if you have a Vanguard with Silhouette, which you always will, it will gain 5,000 power, and if you counterblast one, you can retire one of your rear guards. When it intercepts, it also gains 5,000 shield so long as you have the grade 3 on the board. And to pair with the right arm is the left arm. When this attacks, you can counterblast one to draw a card, or if it is attached to Grand Arms, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose a card and put it into your hand, choose a card and put it into the soul, and the rest at the bottom. Keep in mind you have to do 1 of each. You can't just say I don't want to put anything to my soul and then put 2 back to your deck. And it also has the intercept skill. So basically 1 gives you a ton of power and crit, and 1 farms you a resource. Both are pretty useful and they're huge upgrades from the original arms. You may notice though, these are all the grade 2s we are running. You don't really want to run anything that isn't an arm in your grade 2 because then you don't have the full power going into a silhouette. You can see here basically this is a 15k attacker, this is a 10k attacker. If you add it all up together, this makes silhouette a 38,000 point attacker going first with double critical, which is really useful. And keep in mind that none of these skills are once per turn on their on attacks, so basically when they detach from Silhouette, you can use it again, and when Silhouette attacks, then Strong Left can counterblast one to check the top 3 cards. So you can use this up to 3 times a turn, it's very useful. Though you're mostly going to be using Strong Left, so you can actually get resources, because you don't have a lot of ways to dig for your pieces that aren't the arms. Speaking of things that aren't arms related, we have Resourceful Mechanic Winston. So Winston gives all your arms in the front row 5,000 power as long as he's in the back row center. This works even if your opponent's Vanguard is not grade 3, so it can be a huge swing of power. And at the end of the battle that the unit boosted a Vanguard, if your opponent is grade 3, you can Energy Blast 3, and you can stand the other unit that is attached to your Vanguard, basically giving you a 5th attack. He's really useful, you really want to see him all the time. If you don't have him, you're just a 4-attack deck, and that's not really bad because your numbers are decent, but you kind of need him to close out a game. We're on 4 Repair Robo Runny. Basically when you place him on the rearguard circle, you can Soul Blast one, look at top 7, and then choose 2 different arms, put 1 to the hand and 1 to the drop zone, and then shuffle the rest. And when your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Silhouette in its name attacks, you can Soul Blast 1 and retire it, and until the end of the battle, your opponent has to put 2 cards from the guard circle down to guard the attack. Silhouette is often a very big attack, so they're always going to be putting 2 cards down anyways if they're really hard guarding, which they shouldn't be, because the front triggers break any 2 to pass with just 1 front checked. So what it boils down to is that when your opponent calls a Sentinel, they have to discard another card, which is more useful than you think. I was also trying the new card, Masterful Mechanic Atheist, which has a generic skill when placed on rearguard circle. You can check the top 5 cards for free and put a non-Regalius piece order to your hand and then shuffle. And if you did, you can Energy Blast 3, and if you don't, you have to put a card from your hand to the soul. This, I thought, would kind of be like Helgvar in Vaesrug. He's nothing like Helgar in Vaesrug. He whiffs a lot more. You just have a lot less targets to choose from, and he's not exactly as free as she was. I was also on 2 Rodney when I was testing the deck. Rodney is basically an 8,000 attack booster on the first swing, but on the second one, he is 18k, and when you detach your next arm, he can also restand itself. Basically, he can be an 8k booster first, then an 18k booster on the detached arm. So this really ups your power columns. Finally, for the Regalius piece, we are on Gratias Gradal, which is basically Persona Ride. And Persona Ride is very useful because, you know, your arms all have an extra 10k, means your Vanguard has an extra 10k. Finally, we're on 4 Sentinels. Elementaria can be added off Adius. This never happened in testing, but you can do it technically because it's not a Regalius piece. We're on 5 crit, 6 front. We're on the 6 front because, you know, when you give it to the arms, then your Vanguard increases by 30,000, which reads really nice on paper for Heal and Elder Breath, who basically wins the game instantly if you check him. With that, I don't just want to talk theory all the time, so I am going to show you a couple of the game states you could find yourself in when it comes to attacking. So I'll show you kind of turn 2, turn 3, and then a Persona Ride turn. Now, let's see what the deck can do on turn 2. First, we swing with Strong Left. With Strong Left's Counterblast 1, we're going to be able to draw a card, putting us at 3 cards on our hand. Our opponent will take 1 card here, and then we'll swing with our Vanguard for 10,000. They can guard this, and we're going to drive check 1, Strong Left, and then we're going to swing with Strong Right. Now, Strong Right can gain 5,000 power before our opponent is grade 3, and before we are grade 3, as long as we have a Silhouette Vanguard. So this gets another 5,000 power, so it's 8 plus 15, and that's 23,000, which is 20 to guard. A pretty decent turn 2, all things considered. It's just that the hand investment is kind of big. Now, let's look at what turn 3 looks like on the deck. So because of Winston, our arms in the front row will gain 5,000 power here. Then we'll move to the battle phase, and this is how the attack pattern could look like. So Strong Right swings first, completely unboosted. This gains 5,000 power on attack. So our opponent is forced to guard 15. They don't have a 15, they'll take 1 point of damage. We can just imagine it isn't a trigger for now. Then we're going to swing with Strong Left, boosted by Runny. This is 23,000, so it's 15 to guard again. So they need 1 more trigger to guard if they didn't check a defensive. Otherwise, here they can just guard with 5. Then we're going to swing for our Vanguard here, 13 plus 8,000. And then we're going to equip the arms to each other. Sorry, now we're going to equip the arms to our Vanguard. CFC, as far as I know, doesn't really have an arming function. Probably have to fit around the settings. Instead, what we're going to do is going to add the power manually. So Strong Right is a 20,000 power on his own as long as we have Winston. So we're going to give 20,000 power to our center line. And then after that, our Strong Left has 15,000 power alone. So it puts at 56. And as we have to do is with Soul Blast 1. And we can Soul Blast another one here. Sorry, we Soul Blast 1 more, so that our Vanguard has guard restrict as well. We counterblast here as well with a Strong Left skill, able to check the top 3 cards of our deck. Then we can put 1 to our hand, 1 to our soul. Sorry, let's put 1 to our soul, 1 to our bot deck, and 1 to our hand. Then we'll do our Twin Drive, heal, our can assign wherever, and then another card here. Then assuming we didn't check a trigger here, we can detach a Strong Right, and with Rodney's effect, Rodney can gain another 10,000 power, and this is a 38,000 swing, just like that. This is all things considered a pretty good output. Like the center line is 2 critical, 56,000, and front triggers basically insta-kill you, plus it has some guard restrict with the repair robot. So if my opponent here doesn't have a perfect guard, they're probably going to be taking like 2 points of damage at minimum with the Vanguard swing, which can be a really big thing. It can really cheese out a game just randomly checking a second crit, putting that from 3 to 6 immediately on turn 3 can be pretty brutal. So your opponent is going to really have to think about how they want to mulligan and how they want to play into your turn 3. Right now, I would like to show you what the absolute ceiling of the deck can look like. This is on a Persona Ride turn, okay? So first things first, we'll use the Vanguard's effect to Soul Blast Machining Factory, giving our front row another 5,000 power in addition to Winston's 5,000. Now we move to the battle phase. Strong Left swings first for 38,000. Our opponent can choose to guard that or not. We'll say they can guard it with 2 cards. Then with Rodney and Strong Right, we'll swing again. Strong Right again gains 5,000 power, putting us at 43,000 into them. Let's say this is a trigger and a front, something like that. Then we'll use Grand Arm Silhouette to attack. So this 31, and again, Cardfight Connect doesn't have a function for moving the arms as far as I'm aware, so we're going to do this kind of the old-fashioned way. We're going to just add the numbers together, which is 30,000 and 35,000, I'm pretty sure, because Persona Right doubles up the numbers. So this is 30,000 from Strong Left, and then Strong Right gains 35. Then with Soul Blast 1, Rani will give our Vanguard Guard Restrict. Then with Counter Blast 1, we're going to be able to check the top 3 cards of our deck. We'll just put this to Soul, this to Hand, this to Bottom. This is double critical as well with Guard Restrict, and because we have attached something, Rani gains 10,000 power, but I'll reflect that later. Let's say our opponent somehow guards that. Afterwards, we detach both our arms, and with Energy Blast 3, we'll be able to stand both, so we can do Strong Left up here, and Strong Right up here as well. After 2 triggers, we'll just assume we check 2 blanks. Then with Rodney's skill, because we have the extra Soul, we can stand Rodney back up with its 10,000 power, giving us another 30,000 and a draw with Counter Blast 1, and then this huge 53,000 power. So that's kind of the ceiling this deck aims for. Okay, now that that's over, I want to discuss some of the pain points that I found in testing. Firstly, let's talk about the trigger lineup. It seems weird to talk about first, but hear me out. With the armed arms, a front trigger is going to constitute 30,000 power to your Vanguard's attack, as the arms gain the front power, and that power goes into your Vanguard's attack. To me, this made it seem pretty normal to run fronts in excess. And for my testing, again, I was running 6 to benefit from the quirk. But I did find that if both players are aware of the gimmick, it kind of creates this weird circumstance where the enemy player will no guard or perfect guard the center line, basically no in between, because 2 to pass is kind of unreliable. And it's not like the Vanguard is particularly small, you know? With 0 additional effects, just having both arms on the board, Silhouette produces a 38,000 2 critical attack. So on turn 3, before your opponent can reliably accumulate a perfect guard, they will probably just let it through. That is all to say that if your opponent is never hard guarding the center line unless the situation is dire, you may as well keep running a high crit lineup to kill them early on. Maybe this was obvious to seasoned Silhouette players, but I was very seduced by the 30k front triggers that I lost sight of the fact that the yellow color trigger is quite good. So in hindsight, maybe I would run a few more of those. In that same vein, the Vyrgilla's piece also was meant to give myself a lot more power, making Silhouette hit for 68k with or without Persona Right. If I can force it out with this, then it becomes a 68k center line. With Grand Arms' Soul Blast 1, it's 78k. With Winston, it's 88k. This is like a massive center line, and the benefit is obvious. You have a 96,000 point Vanguard. But again, I draw attention to the fact that it is really unlikely your opponent is hard guarding the center, ever. So the extra Persona Right may be less valuable than having something like Twin Cast to survive. And speaking of surviving, that is also a small issue with the deck. Now, the arms are 20,000 shield together, in theory. They are only 10,000 shield on intercept, making them removable, unlike something like Bav's shield. They sit in the front row, unlike Block Horse, and using these as intercepts does not mean that they come back for free as easily like the Mythage in Vyrgilla. You really have to have the factory, which is only searchable by Adeist, who isn't very reliable, so if you don't manage this well, you're gonna be down an arm or 2. And while it's not something that is really difficult to manage, it is gonna be something that hurts your grind game if you find yourself without arms, because it's pretty pointless if you survive by removing all your arms and are left with an armless Silhouette. Not only that, they have to intercept. It's not like Block Horse in Toys, it's not like the Mythage in Vyrgilla. You are only going to be at 10,000 point shield if you are intercepting, so the ones that sit in your hand are just going to be 5,000. Speaking of the unreliable Adeist, it's him. This is a pain point. Like I showed in the video, your end board with Silhouette probably will not want to have him there. When I was trying out the deck, I found that the end board ideally had Rodney, Winston, and the Repair Robo as my back row, and obviously your front row is the arms. Since he doesn't remove himself, he's kind of a weak presence offensively. That's not to say he has no value, because he is a value piece. Digging to find your factories is useful, and the arm respawn comes up here and there. The issue is that he's a piece that works best when you're behind, when you really need the factories to get more arms back on the board, and then on the board he's just 8,000. Relative to what the aforementioned 3 units do, he's just a little worse. This brings me to one of my final critiques about the deck, which actually has nothing to do with the actual strength of the deck, and more so with how the deck feels. When you play the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, you are likely aiming to have fun. Attaching arms is fun. The huge center line is fun. The fantasy of having the arms attached to you, then detached, then defend you is so fun. I can't deny that, and I loved my time with it. But a lot of the mechanics in the deck create really feel-bad moments for a deck released in late 2025. If you play Vanguard regularly, ADS will always draw comparisons to Vyrgilla's Helgvar, who on a successful search pays 0 cost. She's also way more spammable as a result, and also as the Moongate thing, so that she can always be called. And you know, ADS is technically generic, but I don't think any deck really wants to use him very much. I don't think he aids in consistency that much, so having an extra cost for him doesn't feel very justified. And in Silhouette, all he's gonna hit are the 3 factories you can't hard search, and maybe Elementaria if you're very lucky, but other than that, he whiffs way more than he hits, and even if he hits, I have to pay a cost. Following that, every time you guard with an arm from the hand, you're gonna be so annoyed that it doesn't gain shield. And honestly, there is very little reason that it can't gain the shield. Block Horse gains shield, Buff Sagra has the shield, Mythics have a shield, Coco has a shield, Ezawar is a huge shield, Trickstar and Swendy is a huge shield, and these all come basically no matter where they're from. Mythic are the most egregious comparison because you will be inclined to think that Buster Barrage works great in arms just like it does Vaserug, except it doesn't because the arms as shield are intercept locked. Strong Left's Bifront's skill forces 1 to hand, 1 to soul, and then 1 to bottom. Barring the actual power of that effect, if you've ever used Bifront as a skill, you know how regularly you can open 3 triggers and just groan. It's a strong effect, it really is, but so often does it feel bad, and how a deck feels is a concern. A deck this modern, tail end of 2025, having these kinds of restrictions when the precedent set is a lot more forgiving feels really bad to new players wanting to try out a cool new strategy, and dedicated pilots who are going to wonder why, after such a long-awaited upgrade, they're still going to get outpaced by decks from the middle of the year. All that is to say, I still do really like this play pattern. It feels really good if it gets going. The center line being this massive is hella fun. You can really feel like a god if you check fronts. The arms working on turn 2 is amazing. Strong right can make these 23k lines which are 20 to guard, and strong left can counterblast to draw 1, which is like the best skill in the game. Strong right can now even snipe annoying back row units like Prison's conga line of women, and actually that's kind of the most relevant part, but you know, it's still important. If I were to continue testing the deck, I would probably pivot the list to something like this. Using the cyclers to draw and use up the excess energy that we're not using with Winston, and then having a twin cast and a jeweled beast in order to guard attacks, or to use the jeweled beast to get your factories back to your hand so that you can get your arms back onto the board in the grind game. And finally, I've upped the crit count to 7 and the fronts to 4. Overall, I think the deck is super fun, but there's just a lot of moments where you feel really bad. Like you're just not happy with how the deck whiffs, because you feel a bit robbed out of the fact that you probably should have a successful skill, and you just don't. Still, I don't think that I'm done testing the deck. I think it's still very much in its infancy, and this video could be completely wrong once we figured out the build, but for now, these are my impressions of the deck and some of the pain points I've found. So, what do you think about arms? Let me know, and feel free to steal this deck and improve on it as you see fit. Again, if you want to see some amount of fights with the deck, I've posted a link to Sunny Kisu's deck test video for you to peruse. Alright, that's it from me. Bye-bye.